And I will probably continue to say this one as often as I can, especially to women. Your body is beautifully, magically, miraculously designed to freaking survive. So if it is not responding how you want it to respond, it's surviving. It's doing that in the name of survival. And you need to ask yourself why. Why is your body in survival mode? Why are we stuck here? This was supposed to be a month about peptides. And although we've talked about them a couple times already, I feel like I'm interrupting regular scheduled programming to, I think, talk more about what's just heavy on my mind and heart and things that I think are consistently coming up. I think when the world is chaotic, we often forget ourselves, punish ourselves, neglect ourselves, things like that. And I think it is really, really important when storms come to be aware of what the most important priorities can be, within our control at times. And I think our health is one of those things. The reason so many women are suffering in perimenopause is because of the overall stress burden on our body and how it is greater now in this day and age than it has ever been. It's wonderful that we're talking more and more about perimenopause, and that I think just women's movements in general have helped push the prioritization of women's health and the gender gap there. And I believe that has also happened because things have gotten worse. Our health and the state of our being and our health, because of the state of our, world around us, mentally, emotionally, and physically, has left us redlining it. So when we add perimenopause, this massive transition that we're super uneducated on and just getting educated on, it pushes us over the edge, which is really where so many of us struggle with so many symptoms. And where our opportunity is to reduce those symptoms before we ever need any medical intervention. Anyway, it comes down to, I think, lowering the stress capacity on our life, whether that's in environmental toxins or food toxins or toxic people, or whether that is in, how we choose to push our bodies, how we choose to rest our bodies, how we choose to overwork our bodies. So that being said, sometimes just have these moments where it's a lot easier for me to come on and share information with you when it is like really bubbling up inside of me, as opposed to bringing very strategic content to you, which I think is also important. But today, I thought I would bring to you 4 or 5 things that are really top of mind for these days, whether it's what's going on in the world, whether I'm hearing this from my clients, or things that I'm having to repeat to myself and remind myself. So I wanted to bring this and get this energy and this focus and direction downloaded to you today. And I hope for this episode, if you're listening, if you're watching, I'm so glad you're here. I hope that it gives you some inspiration, some direction, some clarity to move forward in, because we need that, right? We need both inspiration, I think, to keep us going, and we need direction to know which way we're going in. So obviously right now, at the time of this recording, there is a lot going on in this world, and it can feel very overwhelming. So the first thing I think I want to remind all of you, that I'm having to remind myself very frequently, is to pay attention to your central nervous system. We see our central nervous system dysregulated when we aren't sleeping very well at night, when we are anxious all the time, when we feel overwhelmed, when maybe our hunger cues change, we're either overeating or undereating. We see it, come to play when we're feeling exhausted in the afternoon, when we're not waking up with energy. These are all very key signs that we have a dysregulated central nervous system. And when we are having content that is very upsetting at all times, around us constantly, and the vibe of even the people around us is hard, that disrupts our central nervous system. And I think it can be very challenging. And I've watched myself for the last few days get really sucked into media and social media. And usually I'm quite good at having boundaries around that. But I'm into it now because I don't want to ignore. I don't want to be negligent. I don't want to be ignorant. So we want to be aware, of course, and be able to take action as needed. But not at the cost of our health. Of course, sometimes we still always have to take care of ourselves. And so if you're noticing lately that you are snappier, that you're more emotional quickly, that you cannot sleep as well, you're not feeling as rested from your sleep, and maybe you were already feeling this way because you are in perimenopause and your body's already stuck in a bit of a dysregulated pattern, I wanted to give you a suggestion of what is helping me in this time where it is very easy to lose hours to content overload or hours to even like talking about things. And what is helping me a lot is setting boundaries so that we can still be aware and help where possible. We want, if you're going to be taking in content that the world is giving to us, and always, then we need to make sure that we're setting boundaries around it. So whether that is for 30 minutes, I will allow myself to go in and engage and watch and take in information, or for 1 hour or whatever it is, and the same goes for, I think, for watching scary shows and scary things that can feel like entertainment sometimes. We still have to set boundaries around the things that disrupt our central nervous system, because a disrupted central nervous system means we will not be able to bring our body into safeness. And I'm going to talk about that one a little later because it's such an important piece. But if we cannot bring our body back into safeness, we are losing health. We are losing capacity into our body because our body is not designed for chronic stress. It is designed for acute stress. It's designed for an experience of stress and for that stress to then go away. That experience of stress should drive us to do something, to get to safety, to move into safety. But when we're in this situation where it can feel like it is an endless fire hose of stress and overwhelm coming at us, and everyone's going to experience this differently, right? Maybe it doesn't consume you that way. Maybe it spurs you into action. But if you are feeling frozen, taking in content and finding yourself at night scrolling and getting lost in it and scrolling it and getting lost in it, it is time to set some boundaries. So for me, I set some time boundaries around how much time I am able to consume content. And then the second part to this that I think is so, so, so important, when you hit your time limit, when that boundary has come and you put that down, I think it is so very important to do one act of kindness, whether that act of kindness is to yourself, whether that act of kindness is simply just telling someone you love them, whether that act of kindness is, bringing something nice to your neighbors or paying for someone's coffee behind you in the line or the drive-through line. Spread love right now. That's what is needed. That's what's needed for your central nervous system. That is what's needed in this world. So set your boundaries, spread love, and then your body should calm down a little so that we are not spending energy that we don't have to spend. So number one, you must pay attention to your central nervous system. Number two, a very important reminder. I think some of these go hand in hand, but I'm finding that I'm having to repeat this to myself sometimes, but also to many of my clients and to women who I talk to every single day. You are no good to anybody if you are burnt out. We hear many versions of this. Can't pour from an empty cup. You have to put your, mask on first, things like that we hear. But it's not for nothing that we have these sayings. You are no good to anybody in this world, in your family, in your world, if you are completely burnt out. So you have to begin to listen to your body and what she needs. We need to focus on, no matter what, if you are in a safe place in your life, if you have freedoms right now, we need to focus on the foundational pieces of our health, right? Which after safety is always going to be rest and sleep, protecting a healthy window of rest and sleep. It's always going to be moving your body, not too much, but moving your body every day, especially if you sit every single day, all the time. It is nourishing your body appropriately, right? 3 times a day, 4 times a day, making sure you are eating real food that does not disrupt that central nervous system. It is finding time for stress management or pleasure, right? We know that more than ever before in life, stress is a bigger factor than it ever used to be because it's coming at us in all areas of our life and from inside of our body during perimenopause. So we need to listen. If you wake up and you are so tired, maybe a hard workout, not the right thing to do. If you wake up and your body hurts, maybe doing extra that day, not the right thing to do. Maybe the right thing to do is sit in a bath for a little while. And again, give some love to that central nervous system. If you are not finding that you are hungry, we still need to nourish this body, even if it's saying it's not very hungry right now. We have to listen to the messages coming from inside of us. This is the blueprint. The blueprint for your ability to optimize your health is inside of you. We can use functional lab work to help get there, but you have to start listening to what she's saying to you. So if you are pushing yourself, even if you're not paying attention to what your body is saying, and I think what's really key here, and I mentioned this already, is that when life gets chaotic, we get really neglectful. Some of us get into this kind of F it mentality when we're stressed, or it doesn't really matter. I'm just going to do whatever because it doesn't matter, right? We get into that. And some of us put on these blinders and think we're going to take on the world ourselves all alone. And whether you're that person or this person, I find the blinders people are more type A, not to call you out, but we need to take off the blinders. We need to remind ourselves that we do care, and we need to listen to what's happening inside of ourselves. So that's number 2. You must pay attention to your own body, to what she is saying to you, because you are no good to anybody if you are burnt out, and your health is your responsibility, right? It's your responsibility. Okay. Number 3, I think this is really important. And maybe these are all a little bit linked and why they're top of mind, but you need to learn from your triggers, right? We need to learn from the things that trigger us to shift into auto mode, robot mode. I'm just going to do this no matter what. Doesn't matter collateral damage. I'm going to go. We need to learn if our triggers are F it. Doesn't matter anyway. I don't have the money, so I'm just going to buy this thing. I'm gaining weight on the scale, so I'm just going to eat this thing. This mentality, it doesn't matter anyway, so I'm going to keep drinking. Like whatever these things are that trigger you to fall into a pattern that is not aligned with the functional needs and health of your body, we have to start paying attention to those because they're lessons, right? If you are someone who, when you get on the scale, the number that comes up dictates how you feel about who you are, and then therefore dictates the next decision that you made, that's a toxic relationship. Time to get off the scale and just not bother with it. You can tell a lot more about your body by how she feels when you go back to step number 2 and listen to your body, right? Pay attention to that thing. So we need to learn from our triggers and recognize what is that thing and start choosing a different way. Our triggers are actually the most amazing way for us to find the solution to the higher level we're wanting for ourselves, right? Because the triggers consistently happen. They're what kind of stick us and keep us stuck in the same place. So I know when I get a little bit overwhelmed, it can be common for me to want to try to control my body. I want to be like, I need to work out harder. I have to be very productive when I get overwhelmed. That's what my instinct is, because productivity, at least I'm doing something. At least I'm achieving something. At least I'm going, that is what was trained into me or what I decided to learn for myself growing up. And a lot of women are like this. Other people, again, are going to make different decisions. Maybe they get triggered and they're like, well, whatever. It doesn't matter what I told myself I was going to do. I'm just not going to do those things. It doesn't matter. Right. So whether your triggers in your life, whether stress in your life, whatever way it comes, triggers you to control yourself more. And so therefore you do more damage to your central nervous system, or triggers you to stop making the right, healthy, and in integrity decisions for your health. We need to start to isolate what are those triggers, what are those moments, and decide differently. That's growth. That's our opportunity to be different. That is our fastest way. That is our obstacle is the way to getting to that next point. So again, if you're someone on the scale is a really good example. If you're someone who getting on, social media is triggering you, get off social media for a while. Have a conversation with someone from your heart. Do an act of kindness. Do something different so that you are not feeling triggered. If you feel triggered to, body shame yourself or bash yourself because you didn't get to the gym the way you said you would, or maybe your child says something not nice to you, or you get a call from the school, whatever it is. There's 100 different triggers that we can have in a day. It's time for you to start recognizing those. That's growth. Step one is recognizing, is seeing what that trigger is, spotting it. And then the next step in growth is stopping it. Okay, I'm not going to do this same spiral, right? I'm not going to start spiraling down, right? We often, and it's funny because we can trigger because of stress, but we can also trigger because, we're having so much fun. Who cares? Like sometimes I've found when I am really like happy and feeling very free, because my life can feel very like controlled at times. And these are things that I'm constantly working on myself. When I finally get in a free, space, I'm like, whatever, I'm just going to have the drink. I'm just going to do the thing. I'm just going to, but unfortunately, that's a very unconscious thing, very like we're not paying attention. We want our life to be intentional, right? We want our actions to be intentional. So I think what's really important is to be aware of what triggers you to fall off your intention of optimal health, of being a better person, of whatever that is for you, and become aware of it. And then learn to stop it and swap it for a different thing. Just this time, just this moment, I'm going to do something different. And we can boil this down into, I think, a simple craving. If you're having cravings, first, we always want to know, where's this craving? We want to stop it, right? Stop that moment before we just dive into whatever we're craving. And we want to ask, where's this coming from? Is this coming because I'm feeling stressed, because I'm feeling overwhelmed? Is it coming because I didn't eat enough earlier in the day? And what's my option based on your answer, right? Because cravings come from either the fact that you need something else, but you're going to misuse this thing. You're going to eat something instead of get the hug that you need. You're going to eat something instead of like release the stress that you're having, or you didn't eat enough earlier. Either way, we want to learn from that moment. This is growth. This is how we change in the little ways every single day. And it can feel hard. It can feel so hard in that moment to do something different because we're busy and we're overwhelmed, and change feels hard, and change on our brain is not hard, right? Like there's this concept of the devil we know. Even when something isn't good for us, if we're familiar with it, we will often lean towards that thing. So that is why change in this moment is hard. But when we really think about it, making a different food choice, not watching something that's going to keep you up all night, being kind instead of being mean, these are not that hard in the grand scheme of hard things that happen in our life. And they happen so frequently, right? Our choices around nutrition, our choices how to move our body, our choices on what content to consume, our choices around whether we are going to react in anger or react in kindness. They happen frequently. So we have so many learning opportunities. And why does this matter? Because these triggers determine how our central nervous system feels, and therefore how safe our body feels, which brings me to number 4. And I will probably continue to say this one as often as I can, especially to women. Your body is beautifully, magically, miraculously designed to freaking survive. That's what its code is. That's what its MO is. So if it is not responding how you want it to respond, it's surviving. It's doing that in the name of survival. And you need to ask yourself why. And if you need help with that, that's when you reach out to a healthcare practitioner or to another practitioner or something. Someone like me who can help you understand, why is your body in survival mode? Why are we stuck here? But I will tell you that if you pay attention to your central nervous system, that can go a long way. If you recognize that you're no good to anybody when you are burnt out, that can go a long way. These can be big steps in the journey towards figuring out why your body is in survival mode. If you are in perimenopause and suddenly you gain like 10 to 15 pounds, it's not because you're in perimenopause. it's because your body's trying to survive. Yes, perimenopause, the shifting of your hormones is going to be a part of that picture, but it is a result, not a reason. It's a result of the reason. Do you see what I'm saying here? It's so important to understand that our body is trying to survive. It's so important to recognize that we hold space for the imperfection of our children, of our animals, but that we don't seem to hold space for the imperfection of ourselves, for recognizing the human body and what it's trying to do. So if your body is not sleeping well at night, it's trying to survive. If your body is exhausted all day, probably because it's too busy trying to survive. If your body has no interest in sex and you have absolutely no libido, probably because reproduction does not have anything to do with survival of this being right here, maybe the human race, but not this being. And your body's too busy trying to survive to have a libido right now. So much of the problems that we look at as problems in our skin, our hair, our aging, your body is trying to survive. And if you can start to respect that, appreciate that, and recognize that transitions like perimenopause just irritate that a little bit more, for you to pay attention to be like, why is my body trying to survive right now? What's happening in this moment? If you can start to think of your body that way, when I started to recognize that waking up because my body hurts means my body's trying to survive in some way, whether it's like swollen and inflamed because it's trying to literally protect my body from something, or whether it's, like depleted of minerals because it's having to pull minerals from my bones in order to function properly and survive. Remember, our most survived assets, we don't need our arms and legs for survival, right? Like we need this core piece right here for survival. So if your joints are aching, that's where your body's going to leach things from first, right? Start to recognize that. And when you are aware of this really important message that your body is trying to survive, I think it really helps us make different decisions, at least have respect and compassion for our body, right? A body that has not had rest since before you had kids is damn exhausted and wondering if this is ever going to end and trying to find enough energy to store because it doesn't know how long this winter is going on for. So we got to start figuring out how do we unwind it, right? Remember that your body is trying to survive. Okay. And then the last thing, when I feel stuck or uninspired or overwhelmed in life, I look to teachers or people that I have found in the past that really motivate me. I typically do that on my morning walks. I walk my dog every morning. It's dark, usually about 5:30, 5:45 in the morning. It's dark right now anyway. And I listen to things if I'm feeling stuck. Because when I'm feeling stuck and unmotivated, I don't want to talk to my friends, even though it's probably the right thing to do. But I'm like, I need to get out of this funk. I need to change the channel, right? I need to think of something outside of myself. And listening to whether it's audiobooks or podcasts on that walk, when I'm doing a focused movement, when I'm out in nature, fresh air with my dog, these are the times where I find I'm so receptive to this content. So lately I've been feeling that way. And I love listening to Jay Shetty. He's one of my favorite, podcast hosts. His philosophies just really speak to me. And he had Tony Robbins on, who I grew up on Tony Robbins. My dad had his tapes. I can still picture them in our cottage on VHS. And so I would often listen to his books and listen to his speeches and listen to his talks because they reminded me that I have power to change. They helped me understand myself as a human being. They help me with my clients, right? They help me as a mom. They help me as a partner. They help me understand myself and therefore other human beings and the human experience. After I listened to this episode on Jay Shetty with Tony Robbins, I listened to something I found on Spotify that Tony Robbins I think was a compilation of one of his lives. And something he talked about really struck me. It was around kind of the human needs for happiness. So we're not talking about food or, safety, like that hierarchical needs in order for survival. We're talking about happiness and fulfillment in life. And this is what I heard. Obviously, everyone's going to experience this differently, but these really, really stuck with me. He said, number one, we need certainty. This is our routine, right? If you're struggling, if you're feeling overwhelmed, we need routine in life and things that we can depend on and lean on. So when I feel overwhelmed in life, this is why I love to have a healthy living routine, because I'm leaning on a routine that gives instead of takes away. So when I'm feeling uncertain in life, and I need certainty, that is when I lean on consistency in my walking and my sleep schedule and my nutrition and my movement and my, in how I eat, right? These are the things in my mindset pieces. So I know pretty much every day I wake up, I walk the dog, I listen to something that helps me learn or grow or think differently or change that channel. I start my day with water and hydration and greens and my supplements. I eat my 3 meals. I hit the mat, like I breathe. I have these pillars throughout the day that are certain to me. And you want to have certainty because that's important. We need to have that. And that starts to fuel out into bigger parts of our life, right? When you feel certainty that, your kids are safe, or you feel certainty in that your partner loves you, like there's certainty, that really matters. And we find that certainty and we will find ways to get it. And we want those ways to be good ways. And then what he said was, because God has a sense of humor, the second need is variety. We need variety. And I find that so funny and so true, because I can nail a routine for 4 to 6 weeks, but come 4 to 6, 8 weeks of doing the same thing quite frequently, I need variety or I get itchy. I feel like, I'm stuck in this. You almost feel like you're in a rut, right? So at the same time that we need certainty, we need pillars, we need focus, we need clarity of like what grounds us. We need change. We need experiences. And I think you can see this in so many aspects of your life, right? If you're doing the same type of workout, your body adapts. We need variety. If you're walking the same path all the time, you get bored and stop noticing things. You need variety. If you're eating the same food all the time, it gets boring and uninspiring, and you need variety. If you're never getting out into the world and having adventure and trying new things and experiencing new energies, you get stale. So do your relationships, right? If you and your partner do the exact same thing day in and day out, it gets boring, doesn't it? So we need certainty and we need variety to be happy. Think about these things in your life and where they are. What are these certain things and what are the variety things for yourself? And then, of course, he says we need significance. And he explains it like uniqueness. We need to feel special in a way. We need to feel like we are unique and special. And at the same time, what's so interesting about that is that the fourth need is that we also need connection. So we need to feel like we're unique, and we also need to feel like we're not unique, like we matter, like we're important and accepted amongst the people around us. All of these pieces, I think, go into not just fulfillment, but calm and peace in our body when we're trying to pay attention to that central nervous system. So when you think about that, think about the areas where you need to feel like you stand out, whether it's, whether someone's actually listening to you in your conversations with your partnerships, whether you actually feel like you matter in the career path that you're on. Where do you have significance? And then where do you have connection, right? We need to have connection with other human beings, with our partner, with our children, with our animals, with our parents, with our friends, with our colleagues. We need to have connection and feel like we belong somewhere. And then the last two, I think, are very, very critical. And he says you can be really happy with those 4, but in order to be ecstatic, you need these last 2. One, you need to know that you're growing. And I think that's really key. What are you doing to grow right now? What are you doing to help yourself be better, to learn more? Because when we're not growing, we get quite stale. I think that almost comes back to that variety. And finally, we need to contribute beyond ourselves. We need to feel like we're making an impact somehow, somewhere, and this is why I think people have children, because they need to feel like they contribute beyond themselves sometimes. I think this is why it's beautiful to have children, because you are contributing to something beyond yourself. But where, if you absolutely love the work that you do and you make ripples that way, whatever it is, we need to find ways to contribute beyond ourselves. I'm telling you these things because at the end of the day, these 6 things make up, I think, our soul food. They make up the things that fuel us when food and sleep don't fuel us in that moment. They're the things that keep us going when we are stressed, that keep us going when we are overwhelmed. So I guess my tip today in all these thoughts that were just coming to me, and the message I wanted to leave you with is that no matter how chaotic things get around you, if you are safe, if you're listening to this and you're safe, there are things that we need to do to take care of ourselves. And it starts with paying attention to that central nervous system, setting boundaries, giving love out into the world. It starts with remembering that you are no good to anybody if you are burnt out, right? It starts with learning from your own triggers so that you are growing. It starts with honoring the fact that your body is designed to survive and not treating her as anything other than that. She's a damn survivor. And she's telling you something by trying to survive. So figure out what that thing is or get the help you need to figure it out. And finally, there are these 6 things that can help you feel more fulfilled right now, help you feel more grounded, help you feel more happy when things feel out of your control. Okay, sisters, back to regular scheduled programming. But I hope that there's something in here that resonated with you. I hope that you spread some love today and be more in your life and not just less on a scale. We'll catch you in the next episode.